We are building a leaf compost in a simple wire mesh bin. I rarely have too many leaves, but this year I gathered a lot. I'm one of these people who walk around in the neighborhood and note where people put out bagged leaves or where there's piles of leaves on the road. And when I can be reasonably sure that it's not full of weeds, herbicides and dog poo, I often go and just harvest some and bring it here. So this year I got a whole big lot of oak leaves, Gary oak. And some people avoid Gary oak because it's a tough, coarse leaf that is slow to break down and stays around for a long time. And I like it for those exact reasons, because I like my compost to sit for a year, leisurely, maybe 2, and take its dear time to fully break down, because that gives me the best, if you make your compost slow and cool, it has the best microorganism population. So the oak leaves give it a lot of structure, they maintain a sort of fluffiness, they don't mat and become waterlogged and anaerobic, and so that's really important. Making good compost means avoiding anaerobic situations as much as you can. Keeping this oxygen in has a proliferation of beneficial microbes. And so I got oak leaves, I also got linden. I think the more different ones the better, so you can, if you have a few oak leaves, you can balance that with some softer leaves that break down faster. And those both count as carbon content. I also have a few smallish twigs that I'm going to chop up and put in there, and again for structure and for carbon. And then for the nitrogen part, which is less by weight, but less by volume, but about equal by weight, is another bucket full of seaweed, just from the beach, really fresh. A little smelly, and perhaps slightly less aerobic than I wanted to, so I also will add a little bit of EM to counteract any possible anaerobic conditions, because again I want things to be nicely oxygenated. Glacial rock dust is a treasure trove of trace elements, and it's a very easy material to work with. Basically it is ground up rock. The glacier went over the landscapes and deposited huge amounts of pulverized rock in their wake, and I like to add that to my compost, again as a source of trace elements, trace nutrition. Compost isn't made for fertilizer so much as for organic matter content, and particularly microbial life. So the microbes also enjoy having these trace elements around, and I think it also helps the worms to pick it up and run it through the gizzards and break down all the organic matter. So that's how I made my compost. Here's a really simple wire bin. It costs next to nothing to set up. I've already layered a few rounds of dry leaves mixed with seaweed, mixed with some greens, added a few handfuls of rock dust and a bit of EM. And I'm just going to keep doing that until it's full all the way to the top. And it's going to sit there for a year. Occasionally, when I feel like I need a workout, I will turn it, which is as easy as lifting this whole structure up, putting it over there, shoveling the stuff back in, done, and then back and forth all the time. And in a year or so, I might just go through and maybe do a coarse sifting, take out whatever big coarse things might still be in there, and then let it sit for another year, and it comes out beautifully within a year and a half, 2 years of time. So I've already put in some seaweed. I haven't put EM yet. Let's put EM in. This is about a half watering can of water and something that I estimate is about between 50 and 100 milliliters of EM. That's a good ratio. That's all you need. And it's not about getting the compost moist or even soggy. That's not at all the idea. Just to bring in a few microorganisms. I will find that seaweed and notice that this is where they want to live. EM excels in anaerobic conditions, so in order to keep the compost nice and aerobic, EM helps and also breaks down organic matter. Next we'll put in a layer of greens. My dahlias are done. And so I'm just going to chop those coarse leaves and stems right into the compost. I could also chop and drop in my beds, but my beds are pretty well covered in leaves and debris by now, so I have the luxury of putting some of this nitrogen into my compost. And the more you make it, the smaller you make the particles, the smaller pieces you chop your materials into, the better they will break down, because smaller pieces mean a larger surface area, and that means it breaks down easier. Layer of leaves. Just lovely. That smells really good. It smells like the forest. So it smells of fungi and actinomycetes and things that break down these coarser, more carbon-rich materials. Use more seaweed, kelp.
How long did that take you to get?
Just a few minutes. There was so much on the beach. I had a little hand cultivator to rake it up and put it in the pail in globs like this. And we're not gonna make a big layer. We're just basically seeding the pile with a little bit of nitrogen. It's funny if you go to the beach and you gather seaweed, because people will look again and say, "What are you doing?" And then I get a chance to educate them about the benefits of a bit of seaweed in the garden. Dry twigs, and they will, something that is this small and this dry, it'll just disappear. And one way to test your compost and see if it's ready, you can go by looks a little bit, but especially if you pick up something that might still look like a piece of wood, but if you can break it into pieces really easily and it's very soft, then you know that the compost is ready, and even the carbonaceous materials are getting soft and digested. Linden leaves. Some very helpful people had them piled up in front of their home already, and there's a little bit of grass mixed in with the leaves. I guess they raked them off their lawn. That's an added bonus for me. It's a little extra nitrogen. Rock dust.
It's like making lasagna.
It is. A lot like making food, preparing a meal. So I can just imagine all the microbes that are going to proliferate in here and eat all these things up. I'll do one last layer of seaweed. This water I'm adding basically to bring the EM into the system to deal with this here. In the winter, you do not have to keep your compost wet. On the contrary, you might have to put a tarp over on those long weeks of steady rain, because there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. Too much water will make the compost soggy, anaerobic, stinky, unpleasant. So if it does eventually start raining, which I don't know when it will, but when it does, I'll put a tarp over, and just doesn't have to be totally encased, and I'm not going to put it on the sides. I still want air to go in and out, but just over the top so that it doesn't get totally soggy from the rain. Beautiful. Top it off with some more leaves, oak leaves. Over the course of the winter, the volume will shrink to less than half of what is in here now. So it's okay to get it top all the way to the top. It's gonna shrink in no time. The compostable plastic bags. I had planned to return them to the good people that did the bagging, but I guess it's no point now. I don't think I want to put it in with my compost pile. From experience, I realized that they don't really break down unless you have a lot of heat, and this doesn't get as hot. So I'm just going to put it in with the city collection, and they can deal with that. Yum! You know what? I could go and get more. All it needs now is time. And because this is just this loose structure, I can open it at any time. I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller. And in the end, I can show you what it turns into when it's all done.